Hey guys, back again. It's only been about a week and a half since I last did a video on here, but so much has happened in the space of about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. I've got a whole page full of things written down. I could do probably 3 videos a day if I was to cover each of these topics separately. Maybe I should try and monetize this shit. But it's just unbelievable how much utter nonsense is happening now, just craziness. Where to start with it all? This is quite cathartic for me, just coming on here and complaining about this stuff. I don't know if you guys want to continue listening to me. I literally don't know where to start. It's unbelievable, really, how quickly everything's falling apart in the UK now. I remember back in 2018, at the start of 2018, there were 3 stabbings and murders in London in the space of about a week and a half, and that was big news because it's like, oh my god, how have things gotten this bad that we had 3 people stabbed to death in London in the space of just over a week? But now that happened every week. That's just normal now. It was an outrage at the start of 2018 when it happened. Now we've accepted that that's just the norm. In the space of 7 years? That's how quickly standards have dropped. So what's it going to be like in 10 years' time? It really is going to be like a third world dump in this country. It's just so quickly standards are dropping. It's like, I guess it's the frog boiling in the water. We kind of almost don't notice it. But how bad is that what was 7 years ago an outrage is now barely even newsworthy? That these stabbings and murders are happening every single week in London and other big cities. But people are noticing these changes, and we've had a lot of protests over the last few weeks, which hopefully won't go away. I'm hoping that this pressure keeps up on the government. A lot of protests outside hotels that are housing all these illegal immigrants that are coming into the country. And it has pushed the government to pretend that they're doing something about it. They've got this one-in, one-out system, which is designed to fail. Like, if they wanted to stop illegal immigration, they'd stop giving them freebies. That would pretty much stop it overnight. If you just stopped giving them free accommodation, other than prison, that's the only free accommodation they should be getting. Stop giving them free food, free money, free phones, free travel everywhere, free accommodation, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff that's costing us millions and millions of pounds, by the way. Stop all that. That would pretty much stop illegal immigration overnight. But they won't do that. But they will do this one-in, one-out system, which is like me saying that I'm going to try and save money because for every pound I save, I'm going to spend £1. Like, it doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't make sense. No, we need mass deportations of these people, but they don't want to stop it. Otherwise, they would have a long time ago. They actively want more of it. They are encouraging it for whatever reason that may be. So this whole one-in, one-out system is just to try and placate people and try and trick us into voting Labour in the next elections again, under the pretense that they care and they're doing something about it, but they're not. I mean, there was a case, I've got it written down here, where is it? Oh yeah, in Nuneaton, a 12-year-old girl was taken hostage and raped by 2 Welsh choir boys called Ahmed and Mohammed. It's just like, oh my god, the stereotypes. I mean, what can you do? That's their names. It's Ahmed and Mohammed. But the police in the area wanted to cover that up. They wanted it kept quiet. It was only a Reform MP in the area who revealed that it had happened. And imagine how much this stuff goes on that we are not privy to. And I've thought this for a long time, actually. Like, there are so many cover-ups with local councils, police, the government, who don't want us knowing about this stuff. Even the BBC, Sky News, you go on any of their YouTube videos, whenever a crime's committed by a Welsh choir boy type, comments are turned off. Every other video, comments are left on. They make it so obvious, but it's them trying to stop us from making those connections. They don't want us to comment and say, oh, whoa, look, it just happens to be the same type of person committing these crimes again. There's just these constant covers up by the government, media and police. So, there's a lot of this stuff that we do know about, let alone, so imagine how much is going on that we don't know about, that they've been covering up actively covering up. Look, why? Why do they want to protect these people so much? Much like the government who are funding and rewarding all this illegal immigration and want to keep it going. Even the local police and governments are in on the cover-up, like to protect these people. It seems like no cost is too high. No financial cost, no cost to our safety of women and children is too high to protect these people and keep flooding the country with them. Like, why is that? I have my own little conspiracy theory about it, and it is completely a conspiracy theory, so, take it with a pinch of salt. But I can't help but think that some very rich, powerful people from a certain background or with certain ideologies have bought off our government because they realise that blowing up the odd bus or concert here and there isn't going to cut it. If they want to completely take over our country and replace our culture, the best way to do it is just buy off the government. And then that filters down, police are just government enforcers, so the police will do whatever the government tell them to. They're not there for our safety, they are government enforcers. Local councils tend to be run by egotists who aren't necessarily the brightest sparks, but they're people who want to be in positions of power. People like that with egos are very easy to manipulate, because all you've got to do is feed into their ego. So if you tell local councillors, this is the virtuous thing to do, this is the progressive thing to do, so they can stroke their egos and virtue signal, basically, they'll do it. They won't have critical thinking about it. They don't care about the logic behind it. All they'll care about is that it will stroke their ego, because they can be the virtuous, progressive types. So they're easy to manipulate into following this stuff, and it filters down from the top, from the government. Because otherwise I can't see why this desperate need from our government and authorities to just have more and more of these people. I used to think it was financial. I used to think they think the more people flood into the country, more tax money, because the government's answer to everything is just to tax us more, which is folly. That's not going to work. The more you tax people, less money they have to spend, so it screws the economy, and it's just unsustainable. What the government should actually do is try and be more sensible with how they're spending the money, but they don't seem to be capable of that. So it's just tax more, and more people equals more people paying tax, potentially. So I thought that's why government and councils are so desperate just to flood more people in, and they don't really care who. But it's been 20 years of this now, and it's not working. They're costing us more money, because a benefit system only works if you have a reasonably small percentage of people claiming off the benefit system. But we know now that's, flooding people in from the third world who don't really have anything to offer, it isn't going to flood the country with taxpayers. It's going to flood the country with people claiming off the taxes, and it's fucking the economy more and more and more. So surely they've cottoned on at this point that financially it's not working. Not to mention more people equals, you need to spend more money on the infrastructure and the hospital. When was the last time we had a new hospital built, a new school built, a new prison built? More and more people, but they don't want to spend the money to accommodate having more and more people. But you have to at some point. So financially, it's not benefiting us. It's just an unsustainable system. And you'd have thought that they've got enough common sense to have cottoned onto that by now. So if it's not financial, if surely they've realised it's not financially beneficial, what else can it be? Then people who just want to take over the country, and so they've paid off the government, and it's filtered through from the top. But like I say, that's complete conspiracy theory on my part. So I can't really back that up with anything. But while the police and the councils wanted to cover up that Ahmed and Mohammed, these two Welsh choir boys, had raped a 12-year-old girl, at the same time you've got this guy arrested for carrying gardening tools home from his allotment. He had a tool belt on with some gardening tools on his belt, and the police swooped down on him and dragged him in the police station and charged him. I think they ended up giving him a caution in the end. And this poor guy, he was, quite a sort of little, harmless looking guy, white guy. Why on earth the police would crack down so hard on him? I guess they just like easy targets, and this poor guy, he didn't know what to do in that situation. I don't think he even got a solicitor, because he felt I haven't really done anything wrong, I don't need a solicitor, which is no, I don't care how innocent you are, don't talk to the police without a solicitor, for God's sake, because they will do what they did to this poor guy, railroad him into giving him a caution or whatever, when he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was walking home from his allotment, for Christ's sakes, and the police pretended they didn't even know what an allotment was. Now, whether they really are that thick or not, or they were just, any excuse to bully an easy target. But, you've got a cover-up of the Welsh choir boys raping a 12-year-old girl, but the police are happy to swoop down on some guy walking home from his allotment. And I don't know if this is tied into the attack on allotments anyway, because the government have been talking about charging people more for allotments or whatever. Just like, as I said, they want to tax more, get more money out of us. And it seems like, an attack on people being self-sustaining. They hate us being self-sustaining. They don't even want the country to be self-sustaining, which once again plays into my conspiracy theory that people at the top have been bought off to just completely destabilise and undermine our culture and our country, because they're selling off all the farms. They just want to plough over all the farmland, and they don't even want us having allotments. So, they're going to charge you more and make it financially impossible for people to have allotments. They want to have police attacking people who have gardening tools on them, who have been to their allotments to scare them off. I mean, it's just absurd. You also had a Labour MP, what the hell was his name? Ricky Jones, yeah. He went out in public last year saying that we should slit the throats of right-wingers. Like an MP, or a councillor, Labour councillor, publicly saying, let's slit their throats, these right-wingers. Oh, like, you'd think, wow, that's inciting hatred and violence. You can't, and he was caught on film doing it. So that is inciting hatred and violence, for Christ's sake, surely to goodness. He got off, which was a foregone conclusion. Like, I knew they wouldn't do him for that. And yet people who went online and dared to type about they're sick of these people who are causing problems in our country, they got put in prison for years. Like, there's a woman, famously, Lucy Connolly is quite a well-known woman in the UK now. She posted some stuff on Facebook about how she was pissed off with certain people and, they're ruining the country. The police swooped down on her. She got, literally years in prison for just typing some stuff on Facebook or Twitter or whatever it was about how she's fed up with these people and that. And that was considered inciting hatred and, it could incite violence. And yet a Labour councillor could publicly go out and say to slit people's throats, and that's perfectly fine. There's no two-tier justice system in the UK, of course. That's just a crazy conspiracy theory. Why would you believe that? Why would you believe there's a two-tier justice system in the UK? Crazy conspiracy. Another Welsh choir boy called Iomid Famakindi, typical Welsh name. He sexually assaulted a woman. He threw her to the ground, got on top of her, pinned her down, shoved his hand down her trousers, violated her. She's obviously trying to push him off and screaming for him to stop. Eventually someone else pulled him off of her before it escalated too far. We don't know how far he would have gone if he hadn't been pulled off of her. That went to court. No jail time. He was let off because the judge said it was a momentary aberration. So now you get no prison time for sexual assault. Well, Welsh choir boys don't anyway. But you got people going to prison because they tweeted something that the government didn't like. It's once again, no two-tier system. There's no two-tier justice system in the UK. That's ridiculous. But the judge seemed to feel sorry for this guy because of his background, i.e. he was supposedly fleeing a war-torn country. That's what they all say, even though they come from France. France isn't war-torn as far as I'm aware. But I don't see how that means you can sexually assault someone. Even if it was someone, say, who's come from Ukraine, who legitimately has fled a war and they're a bit traumatised by it, like, how does that make it all right for you to sexually assault someone in the eyes of the law? I don't get the connection there. And it was a momentary aberration. Like, can we all have these momentary aberrations? Can I go and sexually assault someone just as a momentary aberration? Because I've never done it before, so it would just be a momentary aberration. No. It's just unbelievably sickening how certain people, the Welsh choir boy types, seem to be able to literally do as they please. Like, they come here, they're given free food, free accommodation, free taxis, free money, free phones, and it seems they're even given free women. Like, they have free reign over women and children in the UK, and the law won't do anything. They seem to say, yep, you can have them as well. Anything you like. It's also come out that during the Rotherham grooming gangs and all this stuff that happened about a decade or so ago now, the government have tried to cover up, by the way. The government don't want any more inquiries into Rotherham and the grooming gangs. Can't imagine why. But it's come out that police were involved in the actual abuse, some police at the time, which is no surprise because the way it was covered up, and still kind of is downplayed and covered up, it was obvious people in positions of authority were involved as well in the abuse. And even now, like Tommy Robinson, he's gone out of his way to expose these grooming gangs, and he's been completely demonised in the UK. The media, the government try and make out like he's like on par with Adolf Hitler, like this guy's evil, and just because he's exposed grooming gangs and other cases of media lies and bias. As I said earlier on about how that 12-year-old girl's rape in Nuneaton was attempted to be covered up by the police in the area. A lot of cases that get reported in the news are misrepresented to us. Like last year, there was an attack on some police officers in an airport in Manchester in the UK, and initially we were only allowed to see a little snippet of the footage of a police officer kicking one of these guys in the head. And it was framed as, oh, these brutal police officers, they're racists, look at this disgusting act of attacking these poor innocent guys at the airport. And that the media outright lied to us by saying that and only showing us a little snippet of the CCTV. Luckily, the full footage was leaked and we saw the truth, that actually these two guys were savages. They'd attacked someone, I think in Starbucks or something, they'd headbutted someone, attacked someone. That's why the police went to arrest them, and they then savagely attacked the police. They broke a policewoman's nose, she's on camera crying her eyes out, bleeding everywhere. And that's why the police were getting brutal with them, because they had a hell of a fight on their hands. But the media outright lied to us by cutting down the footage to just show these poor guys as the innocent victims and the police as the aggressors. So once again, how much of this goes on that hasn't been exposed to us? And Tommy Robinson is someone who has been trying to expose this stuff to us. There was a case, he released a documentary about it, of a schoolboy who was attacked, and it was framed as a racist attack. But actually, the truth was, this guy was a scumbag. He was a real nasty piece of work, and he wasn't attacked through racism. He was attacked because he was an arsehole, and it'd been abusive and horrible and violent to people. And as soon as another kid fought back against him, that kid got demonised. Oh, he was a racist, and this other poor guy is just a poor victim. But that wasn't the truth at all. But that's how these things get framed to us, because there's a certain agenda being pushed on us. And speaking of Tommy Robinson, he punched a guy out recently I think it was in a train station. Some guy attacked him, and this was another case of we were only allowed to see a tiny snippet of the CCTV footage. We were shown this to the CCTV of Tommy punching the guy and the guy falling to the ground. I actually thought it looked a bit fake. The guy who was laying on the ground unconscious. I wouldn't be surprised if he was faking it, if he was just deliberately trying to get Tommy in trouble, because it was seemingly an unprovoked attack. He just kept going at Tommy, and then when Tommy punched him, he falls to the ground straight away. So I think it was a setup, really, to try and get Tommy. Maybe it's the authorities involved, maybe it was just some random guy who doesn't like Tommy. He thought, I'm going to try and set this guy up, I'm going to make it seem like he's attacked me and knocked me out. But we didn't see the full CCTV. We only saw what the media wanted to show us, and they're like, oh, look, vicious Tommy Robinson, he's punched a guy out, what an arsehole. So what's going to happen with that? Who knows? But a lot of people are saying, well, show us the full CCTV footage. Even Tommy himself has said, look, show the full CCTV footage of this guy coming at me, and me telling him to go away multiple times before he rushed at me and I had to defend myself. There was another case recently of a Welsh choir boy who's recently entered the country. He wandered into some woman's house, uninvited, trespassing basically. Two British guys saw it going on, heard the woman scream, so they went in, escorted the guy out. And the police then came along, didn't arrest the guy for trespassing because they claimed it wasn't a crime, even though it is. And they just took this guy back to the hotel that he's staying in. Meanwhile, they gave the two British guys who had saved this woman and got the guy out of her house, they gave them a dispersal order to get them to bugger off. There's no two-tier justice system. I just want to make that clear, obviously. There's no two-tier. It's craziness. No two-tier justice system in the UK. Madness. Another Welsh choir boy was on a train and decided to take his trousers off and his pants. So his dick's flapping around in front of women and children. And it looked as if he was going to take a dump, which has become a common thing in the UK now. London and some other cities actually have signs up now saying don't take a shit in the street, please. It's not British people doing this. We haven't all of a sudden decided, I'm just going to shit anywhere I like. That's fine. No, it's not us doing this, obviously. But the media and the councils and that won't ever admit that. They just say, oh, we've got a bit of a problem now. People just randomly, I can't understand why, but some people decide to keep shitting in the streets now. Like dogs that just sort of decide, oh, I need to go, so I'm going to squat down and do it. Though even dogs that you can train not to do that, but there are some people from certain cultures where they haven't quite learnt that yet. So they're just taking dumps everywhere. And this guy on the train looked like he was going to take a dump. For whatever reason, in front of all these people, he took his pants off. Some British people on the train took exception to that. They didn't like him being there naked with his dick out in front of women and children, so they pinned him to the ground and basically made a citizen's arrest. Rightfully so. This guy's a criminal. You can't just go around getting your dick out in public places in front of women and children. The media framed that as, oh, this poor mentally ill guy was attacked on a train, isn't it dreadful? Like, that's how the media framed it. And the police are now looking into charging the guys who made the citizen's arrest. But once again, I'm going to make it clear, there's no 2-tier justice system. That's mad. It's crazy talk. No 2-tier justice system. Another Welsh choir boy. This happened a bit longer ago, so it wasn't a completely recent case, but another Welsh choir boy stole some kid's e-bike, and he threatened the kid with a very large knife. But he basically threatened to kill him, to steal his e-bike. The father took exception to this, as you would. I don't think many fathers would be okay with their son's life being threatened. So he got in his car and he rammed this guy on the e-bike who had stolen the e-bike and killed him. That father is probably now facing years in prison for that. Once again, the media framed that as, oh, this poor guy, he was a lovely guy, he was really nice. And they got members of his family to come forward and say, oh God, he was such a lovely kid, oh, it's such a tragedy, oh, he's so lovely. This guy who's going around threatening to kill people with a knife if they don't give him their e-scooter for him to steal. Lovely guy. He's so lovely. And the poor father now, like I say, he's probably going to miss out on the next decade or so of his child's life because he's going to be stuck in prison. But speaking of that Manchester airport incident last year, I do think that's one of the reasons why the government have cracked down on the internet now with censorship, with this, Online Harms Act bullshit, pretending that they care about kids' safety, which they didn't, they celebrated Jimmy Savile, Sir Jimmy Savile, I should say, I guess. They celebrated him. They've tried to cover up the grooming gangs. They still cover up and protect Welsh choir boys who they're actively encouraging to come into the country, who abuse women and children. So it's odd that all of a sudden the government are concerned about children when it comes to online safety. But yeah, that's purely to censor us from getting information like the airport video last year that the media framed as one thing and only showed us a snippet of. But luckily, the full footage was revealed to us. But if they can censor the internet and they can sort of claim that certain things aren't, oh, that's not appropriate for a child to see that because there was an act of violence in it or whatever, they can censor that stuff. So I think, that airport footage being leaked is one of the contributing factors to why the government have now created all this censorship online so that we can't see this stuff. We are only going to get the media propaganda spin on everything. They've even talked about trying to push YouTube to push BBC content because no one's watching the BBC anymore because it's crap. Everyone's turning to YouTube and independent media. So rather than the government and the BBC thinking, oh, maybe that's because people don't like the shit we're shoveling to them, instead they're like, well, let's just try and force it on them through YouTube. So they want YouTube to actively push BBC content on people to try and convince us to watch it. Heaven forbid they try and actually make something entertaining and not full of propaganda. No, they just all they care about is pushing the propaganda. So any way they can. So now they're going to try and get YouTube to promote BBC and crap like that. If you do see this on your feed, all you got to do is click on the 3 dots and just click "Don't recommend this to me" to stop it. So we can fight back against that for the time being. If you start seeing more of their crap promoted on YouTube, you can easily stop that from happening. But there was also plans, and I imagine they will go through, to monitor anti-immigration posts as well. Once again, because they don't want us to push back against their agenda with all this stuff. As I said earlier, at any cost, it seems, no matter how many negatives there are to importing the third world here, they just want to steam ahead with it. And if you dare to speak up against it online now, they're going to be monitoring that. as well as wanting to censor online so that leaked footage and leaked information can't get out to us about how bad things are. What, you know, as like I say about the cover-up or attempted cover-up of that rape of the 12-year-old girl by Ahmed and Mohammed. They don't want us knowing about this stuff. Because YouTube is now overtaking, I think YouTube gets more views now than ITV in the UK. And ITV is like the second biggest TV network after the BBC. So BBC won't be far behind, because that kind of old style broadcast media is old school. Like I haven't had a TV and watched that for 12 years now, other than snippets I see when I'm around other people's houses, you know. If I'm with my parents, with friends or whatever, I see some of it. And because I don't watch it often, maybe I'm more sensitive to the propaganda, but within like seconds, or pretty much, of watching any mainstream media now, like the propaganda's blatant. It's just so in your face. But like I say, maybe because I don't watch it every single day, I'm not seeing it all the time. That makes me kind of more sensitive to noticing it the second I do see some, mainstream media TV or adverts or whatever. I think, what the hell? Gee whiz. People have been, because of all the protests, and people are trying to be more pro-British now, which isn't racist, because we live in Britain. We are British. We should be pro-British. We should be patriotic and proud of our own nation, rather than constantly being told that we shouldn't be, and that our culture's horrible and needs enriching by the third world somehow. But people have been putting English flags and British flags up around Birmingham, which isn't new that people do that. There's been a lot of Palestine flags put up all over the place in various towns and cities to support that, people who support that. But as soon as the English and British flags were put up on lampposts and things, the council straight away took them down under the pretense that it was for health and safety reasons. Like, the Palestine flags aren't a danger to people apparently, but English and British flags could kill you. They could fall on you and kill you. No two-tier system in the UK though, just want to make that clear. Oh, it's also been revealed that the government actively send the dinghies back to France, by the way. When Welsh choir boys, coming from Wales obviously, come into the country on dinghies, our tax money is being used to then ship the dinghies back. Which is another reason why this whole one-in, one-out system is bullshit. If you wanted to stop immigration, it's in the fucking dinghies back there. At least one school in the UK were encouraging the students to write Valentine's cards to illegal immigrants. How bizarre is that? And this is the level of propaganda. Like they're trying to indoctrinate these poor little kiddies when there's all this abuse and rapes and stuff going on. And at best, they're shitting in the streets, and sponging off the system, even if they're not going out raping and pillaging. And yet, schools are getting children to write Valentine's cards to them, for fuck's sakes. You can make it up. And yet, we've got a sense of the internet to protect the children. Don't have children writing Valentine's Day to fucking illegal immigrants, for Christ's sakes. It's ridiculous. Madness. And teachers are kind of like I said earlier about local councillors, a lot of them are on a power trip. That's why they want positions of authority like that. And it is easy to manipulate them, just tell them what will make them virtuous, so they can virtue signal, and they'll do it. So, yes, isn't this lovely? Let's get the little children to write Valentine's cards to fucking... That couldn't possibly end badly, could it? Getting children to send Valentine's cards to these people. That won't encourage anything bad or negative, I'm sure. JD Sports apparently give free clothing to Welsh choir boys who enter the country illegally. So just know that if you shop in JD Sports, you're basically being mugged off, because while you're paying them for their clothes, they're then giving the clothes for free to Welsh choir boys who come into the country illegally. So I never shop in JD Sports anyway, it doesn't really affect me particularly. But if I did shop in JD Sports, I'd feel like a mug now. Like, no, why am I paying for this if other people can get it for free who've entered the country illegally? This is slightly off topic from everything else I've been talking about, but I just thought I'd throw it in. I don't know if anyone else has had experiences like this. I said earlier about local councils not being the brightest sparks. Like, my local council now used to be, you go down to the local tip if you got a load of rubbish, just dump it. You just go in there at your leisure, when it's convenient for you. Oh, I've got a load of rubbish here. Okay, put this stuff in there, put the garden waste in there, put wood in there, put metal in there, whatever. And you go. Nice and simple. Now the local council have decided that you have to book in to do that, and you've got to give loads of details first before you can rock up to the tip to dump your rubbish. Like, I went there a few months ago, and I didn't realise you had to do all this, but they said, oh, it's fine, just come in, but next time you're going to have to book in, you've got to give all these details. And there was no one else there, and they said, yeah, ever since this change has been implemented, we're not busy at all, no one comes here anymore. Because the obvious thing happened. The obvious thing, if you make it more difficult for people to dump their rubbish legally, they go and dump it illegally. And in the local, like, free little newspaper thing that comes through the door, it said, fly tipping has shot up. Like, no shit. That was the most obvious thing that would happen. If you start making it more difficult for people to dump their rubbish, obviously fly tipping was going to rise. Like, how was that connection not made? But that's how dumb local councils are now. And they seem to want to... and that's just like a really trivial, I guess, example of the working of the UK now in general, that everything gets worse. It seems like every decision that is made by people in positions of authority makes things worse. Like the whole Online Harms Act. That's just made... No one wanted that. Not a single person was like, yeah, we need more censorship on the internet in the UK. No one wanted that. But they've done it. You know, not a single decision that governments or councils make anymore, and it's been like this for quite a few years now, not a single goddamn decision they make actually makes things better. They actively make things worse. There you go. That's literally in the space of like a week and a half, all this stuff has come out, and it's just, oh my lord. endless stream of nonsense. We're living in a country now, we need ID to use a lot of websites because of online censorship in the UK now, but you don't need an ID to enter the country illegally. We're living in a country where cheese is locked up in supermarkets in some areas, and just random, not particularly expensive essentials like that are having to be locked up, and you have to ask a staff member to unlock it if you want to buy it because of all the thefts. But actual criminals who are committing those thefts aren't locked up. Like, the police won't do anything about shoplifting and shit like that anymore. Pickpocketing. Isn't it crazy? We'll lock up the cheese, but not the criminal who are stealing the cheese. That's the mad world we live in the UK. Anyone who doesn't live here, I don't know if you could possibly believe that the United Kingdom in 2025 would be like this. It really is heading towards being a third world shithole. I can't imagine what it would be like in 10, 20 years' time. If the standards have dropped so far since 2018 that we now just accept multiple stabbings and knife deaths every week in big cities, what's it going to be like in a decade or two? Especially with all the conditioning of young people to accept this stuff as if it's normal. Especially with the demographic change. I mean, oh boy.